Our first session of the day is Journey to the Stars, exploring SpaceX's quest for space exploration. Unfortunately, Felix can't join us today. He is under the weather, but he is here. He was here yesterday. He just woke up not feeling super well. So instead, we've got John Stringer, who will be interviewing Ellie in space. So give it up.
All right, so we have, so it was obviously a bit of a bummer. Felix is literally under the weather, but I could not be more proud to have Ellie in space here. We have, especially over the past month, we were able to interact a lot more just because I was out at the Starship launch. So Ellie, just come up in space, but like
come up in space.
Yeah,
come
exactly.
Up on Earth.
That actually was not pun intended, but yeah. So I just wanted to say thank you to Ellie. So us launching into SpaceX and doing the X takeover, she was a huge part of behind the scenes and making the connections to all of the SpaceX influencers and who should we get and all that stuff. So she's played a huge role. It was really cool. With my daughter Victoria, we were able to experience the Star Factory tour with the SpaceX team last month, and then you had the wonderful privilege to interview Mr. Elon Musk. So I was just behind the scenes helping to film it, but that was a blast. So Thank you for coming all the way from Austin. And yeah, let's take a seat, I guess.
Yeah, it's great to have a break from the heat, so I will say that. Although it's colder than I thought it would be here. Yeah, what a month last month. Incredible.
Yeah. And what a month ahead, because, potentially Starship 5 launching. But I wanted to call out, Ellie, Felix, what about it? Like, you guys have sacrificed everything.
Yeah.
Literally, let's talk a little bit about your career, but you guys have literally sacrificed everything to cover SpaceX, all of the stuff that they're doing. It feels very much like Tesla in the early days where they are pushing the limits. The only reason why, the Americans are even going to space by ourselves is because of SpaceX. Otherwise, we're paying $45 million per seat going on a Russian aircraft to go up to the International Space Station. And so, a lot of that's just not being covered.
Yeah.
And so people like you who are just shouting, from the mountaintops about what this company is doing. So, but just tell us a little about, what you've sacrificed to just get to where you are now, to hitting one of the many highs and a lot of future highs, I know, for you and your career, but interviewing Elon. So what was, what have you sacrificed? What was even that experience like?
I think people are probably wondering, how did you interview Elon Musk? So I think we need to go back to, my involvement in SpaceX. I was a full-time TV news anchor and reporter for almost 10 years. So taught me how to interview people. I'm usually in your seat, John. And, I was very inspired by what SpaceX is doing and decided my channel started growing. A lot of people are interested in the Starship program. And I was like, you know what? This is a risk, but I think I'm going to go for covering this full time. And it's been quite a journey. So, it felt more like a risk than a sacrifice, but it has worked out. And I think it's a privilege to cover and share the story of SpaceX and what's unfolding right before our eyes. Obviously, Falcon 9 is the workhorse rocket of the industry right now. SpaceX has, like you were saying, done things that have never been done before, and they continue to do that with Starship. And so if you're not familiar, you might want to go down to Starbase at some point. It's a wonderful adventure, and it's kind of in the middle of nowhere, but for anyone who's been to Starbase, I'm sure you can agree it's worth the trip. And
so Pulse, who's been to Starbase?
Yeah.
Who's a fan of Star Wars, Star Trek, any of that? Okay. Like, imagine walking into a movie. That is what Starbase is. You have a rocket that is the size of the Statue of Liberty on the beach.
It's like Disneyland for space nerds.
But it's also in one of the most like the Rio Grande splitting the U.S. and Mexico is right there, like literally the border where you see a lot of people can cross it. Like you can literally almost feel like they walk across it. It's just, it's insane.
There is a border checkpoint, but
it's crazy.
When people ask me, they're like, "Oh, you live in Austin now, so you must be so close." And it's like, no, it's 6-hour drive down in my Tesla, and you're really basically in Mexico on the border. But man, are they developing, Starbase every single day. Every time I go down there, I've been down there 10 times, and it changes because SpaceX is moving quick. They're rapidly iterating. They have a mission, and the clock is ticking. And I'd love to play some video if there's any way to
exactly
cue it.
What I was going to do.
Because I wanted to ask you guys, who here has actually seen a rocket launch in real life? Raise your hand. Okay, that's wonderful. More people than I expected, but hopefully we can cue the video. It's too bad that Felix couldn't be here, but this video that we're seeing is Felix and I happened to watch the SLS Artemis launch from Florida, a very bright and loud launch, and hopefully, I don't know if there's any way to turn up some of the sound just a little bit. You can see it's, triggers some emotions.
Are we allowed to get the audio?
So Felix is interesting. Felix moved his entire family from Germany to cover what SpaceX is doing full time. I quit my job in TV news, and I think that's just a testament to how much we believe in the mission. And so you can hear the rocket. I'll be quiet. I mean, look at this. It is almost spiritual to watch a rocket launch. The first time I watched one, I teared up, and I'm like, what's wrong with me? Kind of similar thing happens if you see an eclipse. And, if I were to recommend anyone to watch a rocket launch, seeing a Starship launch is obviously in its infancy still.
So I've had my 2 daughters watch it, and you're talking a 5-year-old, 8-year-old, and you can't get someone more excited about something in the future of humanity than taking them to a Starship launch.
It is something you need to do at least once in your lifetime. It is blinding.
And there's only been 4.
There's only been 4.
Only 4. So it's just,
you
it's
can
crazy.
turn it down a little bit. Sorry. But that's the thing. I've actually been scolded. The first few Starship launches I've live streamed, and I'm screaming into the mic because you can't help yourself. It's a human reaction. You're just in disbelief seeing what's in front of you. And so, as you can see me there kind of crying a little bit. Anyway, Starship is amazing. Starship, Falcon 9 has changed, and SpaceX has radically changed the space industry. And trust me, it needed some change. But what Starship is going to do is, game changer is cliche, but it's true. The world's first fully reusable rocket. Never been done before. You can imagine how much that's going to lower the cost, increase access to space, and with the eventual goal of going to Mars. And some people, I've been covering this for a few years now, they say we need to focus on our problems here on Earth. I think it's good to have a backup plan. But SpaceX is already benefiting us here on Earth. How many of you have Starlink? Yeah. So Starlink, that has also provided some people with internet for the first time in their lives. It's not just, access to entertainment like YouTube or something. It's education, it's healthcare. And
the X Takeover is brought to you live by Starlink.
Woo!
We're in the middle of a field. You can't bring cables out here. And, we had Franz on yesterday with Starlink. So it's bringing, the gap of knowledge is being removed because of Starlink single-handedly.
When I actually started my channel covering Starlink. So Starlink, I covered first when it was in the Better Than Nothing beta days. I don't know if any of you guys remember those days. So it was just being rolled out. It wasn't quite as good as it was today because they were still, deploying satellites and building the constellation. But I went to Washington State. There's a Ho American Indian tribe, and they were just blown away. They had never had internet. They'd never had an email, and during the pandemic, a lot of school districts, people needed connectivity since everything was so virtual. And Starlink has obviously been rolled out so much more now, but it is just, now we have, the Mini and...
So the Starlink Mini can fit in your backpack. Yeah. So now I'm going to be able to go and take one of my kids and go to the Starship launch and have access. Because the worst thing, you get on South Padre Island and you start seeing these rockets go up, there's no reception. As you know, if you're making content, the posting it as soon as possible is everything.
Yeah.
And so tell us a little bit about how you cover it, but also I want to find out more from you. You've been covering SpaceX for years now. How did you land the Elon Musk interview? So tell us a little bit, how do you approach Starship launch coverage?
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about where are you even? Because I'll be at Isla Blanca Park, which is technically 5 miles. I mean, it's right on the water. I'm sitting at the very edge, and you are literally seeing these rockets go up. But you're on South Padre Island, so tell us about what is your approach, even versus like being on the Space Coast. Watching things from Cape Canaveral. Like, how do you approach these launches?
Well, like you mentioned, connectivity there is rough. But I've streamed from the roof of Margaritaville all 4 launches. Kind of strange how I even ended up on there. A lot of serendipity happening. But the first launch scrubbed. And I was trying to stream from Isla Blanca Park, even using Starlink. It wasn't working that well. And I got invited, just a random email from someone from NASA using those MX-25 high-powered cameras. And he had seen me doing a live stream just on an off-launch day with Joe Tegmeyer, zoomed in on us. I don't believe his story, but anyway, he messaged and he's like, "Hey, I have a better viewing spot, and the Musk family might be in town on Thursday, so you might want to come check it out." And I'm like, "Okay, like, I'm game." And I was still in crutches at the time. I'd just broken my femur a month before, and so anyway, checked it out. Really great viewing spot, and yeah, Elon's mom, brother, sister happened to be up there on the first Starship launch. It was incredible to interview them. I was actually surprised how much time they gave me. So, I wasn't sure how my coverage was going to turn out because I was barely out of the hospital, but some strange things happened. And then Elon followed me. And
congrats on that, by the way.
Thank you.
I mean, that's like, especially being in the SpaceX world and covering it, sacrificing all that you do to get followed by the guy that's essentially running us becoming multiplanetary, following you. That's insane.
I think it felt really good to know that he supports my work, because obviously I support everything that he's doing. And here you can see
that's Joe Tegmeyer.
This is Joe Tegmeyer. He's incredible. We should have him next year, actually. But this was during the second launch, and so yeah, I've been streaming from the roof. Unfortunately, they don't let guests up there anymore, except for me, because I'm kind of grandfathered into it.
You're grandfathered in, literally. Again, there's like 3 or 4 really amazing spots to cover it, and you've landed one.
A lot of people, they'll get a hotel room that's facing the launch pad, and they're able to see it. But the beach really is one of, if not the best place. You have the community. You have, this shared human experience. I just need the service. But so, I've made 10 trips down to Starbase, and this last launch, I just messaged Elon and I was like, "Hey, I'd love to interview you down at Starbase." And
hold on, so you just DM'd him?
I just sent him a message.
And then did he respond, or was it someone from his team?
He did respond. The first was, we hadn't gotten the launch license yet. So he's like, "I got to see how it goes." And then he said, basically, if the launch goes well, yes. And, what an honor to talk to him on one of not only the busiest, but one of the most successful days SpaceX has had to date. And so it was really, really amazing. And you were there. So
yeah, behind the scenes.
You coached me because you're a veteran.
No, glad to spread the knowledge. That's the insane thing about Elon is that, I got my first Tesla back in July of 2018, and he's one of the most reachable and loyal people. And so for you, like, he knows, he's seen your stuff before. He's even interacted with it even before he started following you, obviously. But he's one of, like, that's the insane thing about the Twitter, and that's what has made that platform what it is, in that you can reach the most unreachable people.
Yeah.
And so congrats on that interview. I know it's just been yeah, again, that's kind of to be able to do those things, especially in the SpaceX world, that's huge.
Yeah, I will say X, the only problem with X is that it's very addicting. I spend way too much time on it, but it really is. I mean, having a TV news background, TV news just can't keep up. Breaking news on X, everything is happening so quick. And, I think it's a really addicting platform.
What is so important about what SpaceX is doing? Why should people care? I mean, again, you have a lot of people in the Tesla space. Obviously, it's about sustainability, sustainable transportation, energy. But why SpaceX? Like, why is it important to humanity?
Yeah.
Why should people care?
Yeah, I mean, SpaceX has done what no private company had ever done before. And so when we used to think of space, we probably just thought about NASA and, having a government be able to achieve these goals. And, SpaceX had a rough start. If you've followed the journey, you know that. But they have opened up this door for, many private companies, commercial space companies, startups to, I think, just even have the courage to try this with what they've been able to do. Everything that they've done, even with Falcon 9 and Falcon Heavy, was previously thought just completely impossible. And if you are able to see a Falcon Heavy launch too and see, the double booster landing, 2 skyscrapers landing, it's science fiction turning into reality. So it's going to, it already has completely changed the space industry, and we needed that. We haven't been back to the moon in over 50 years, and that's unfortunate, but SpaceX, not only wants to help us get to the moon, build a permanent moon base, but eventually go to Mars.
Sorry, look at this. I mean, this is like CGI. I mean, you're literally on a horse, like walking up to a freaking rocket.
I will say, funny story, I borrowed that horse. I didn't know anything about that horse. I used to rodeo, though, so I have some experience. But that horse laid down in the sand with me on him and just started rolling. And I was like, are you kidding me? I'm not going to break another leg. But you got to vet these horses that you're riding on a random beach. Is incredible. It's really cool to see Starbase not only by horseback, but a lot of people don't know that you can go walk down the beach a little bit and walk behind and have this. I mean, it feels like we're trespassing. You've been back there too.
Yeah. I mean, well, you talked a little bit about how Starbase has changed. So I went to 3 out of the 4 rocket launches. Couldn't make one of them. And, they literally picked a beach to build almost like swamplands, like kind of, it feels like Shanghai factory, like just, they built it on the beach. And next thing you know, like they literally have a whole rocket garden, and you can pretty much get probably from here to maybe where that back white fence is, that's how close you can get up to a rocket that is the size of the Statue of Liberty. You can literally walk up to it. And that's what makes it so real and raw. But it's changing. Like, they have the whole star factory. I mean, I hadn't been there. I went in November, and then I went again in June. And I can't tell you, it's night and day. Like, you imagine a city being built overnight. That's literally what happened with that place.
Well, and listen, I mean, you're obviously covering Tesla a lot, but there's something that's bringing you back. This is not exactly an easy place to get to. And I think that says a lot about, someone being able to make that trip over and over, not necessarily a huge space fan, but there's a magic down there. Even though it's hot, even though it's humid, even though there's a ton of mosquitoes, it's unlike anything you're going to see. You're not going to see that certainly at
So I wear glasses. So these are even prescription sunglasses, but I literally wear glasses. Imagine the Texas heat is insane. It's like, I'm not even talking Austin. I'm like, imagine walking outside, like you're going out of an AC building and you're, again, on a beach. So then you have like sand flying up in this insane heat. And it literally, every time I came out, I literally had to wipe my glasses from the sand being blown up off the freaking beach.
I will say I'm glad they graduated from the tents. We were very fortunate to be able to tour Starbase. I've been, on the perimeter, right, for the past 3 years. And the conditions for the employees down there have drastically improved. They have AC. It was much more developed on the inside than I thought.
Yeah.
And it's just, it's a tough place to live. Would you rather work in Hawthorne, California or Boca Chica, Texas? And so they've done a good job of really creating amenities and sort of, like a town.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, imagine picking like, first off, I mean, in Elon's, he picked the two hardest places and most expensive places to build cars and rockets. And then, Boca Chica obviously has been an extension, but, how they even pick Starbase is obviously because they need to fly the rockets east and like it was the perfect, but that place has just changed overnight. It went from like an Airstream, because they, you pretty much have to relocate out there.
Right.
It's not, a lot of people are flying in from Austin and Los Angeles. But once you get out there, it's 30 minutes from the airport, to drive in.
Right.
So they had an Airstream hotel, hotel or like rooms or whatever, a bunch of Airstreams, and now they're building homes. They they have a bar there. They're building a whole like mini city out there.
Well, and that's the thing I think people need to keep in mind. It's hard to time a rocket launch. Often we only hear a few days before when Starship might be launching, and then things happen. It gets scrubbed. It gets delayed. When I was trying to see SLS Artemis, I flew all the way to Florida from Portland in September, and it was scrubbed, a couple minutes before, and I was like, so I came all this way, and then, they were going to try again in November, and I'm glad that I went. But I will say this, even if you can't see a Starship launch, I still think it's worth going. The landscape there is changing every day. There's a reason why, there's this whole cottage industry of influencers and people who live down there, and they're just tracking the micro movements of, what's going on with this crane and down at Starbase. It's incredible,
Yeah, I'm going to mention one thing, and then the second thing, I want to ask you a little bit about Starship 5 and kind of what's on your mind. But as you said, it's something you got to do. So, for example, Jade standing over there, she came all the way from Chicago. She paints for starships, and like we literally met on Starbase, I think, with me and I think it was Victoria. Like we literally met her, and I was like, "Hey, you got to come to the next takeover." And you meet people from all over the world. Similar to how this event is like worldwide, people are coming.
Yep.
But going to Starbase, you meet people from everywhere. And so it really, the SpaceX community, especially when you go to these launches, it really is bringing people from all over the world. It's insane.
I'm shocked how far some people travel.
Yeah, and even I think I had some people like they were like are hitting up Tesla events, then the Starship launch. They were going to the shareholder meeting and then the Starship. Just
that's
back
the thing.
to back.
I think if you're a fan of Tesla, you probably can easily become a fan of SpaceX. Just everything in the Elon sort of sphere, Boring Company, Neuralink, it's all to help humanity.
Exactly. So the big thing that we know is happening in the next couple weeks, maybe it's getting delayed, but like Starship 5 is happening. Mm-hmm. Starship 4 happened in the middle of July or in the middle of June. For you, what are you expecting? What is from your point of view? What does success look like?
Yeah.
And maybe you can even say like, how far did Starship 4 take us, so that people in the audience who don't know.
Well, Starship 4 was by far the most successful flight. Starship 5, excitement guaranteed is Elon's slogan. Every flight, there's some new milestone that they want to hit. And they had a lot of success on 4. For 5, they want to, again, try something that's never been tried before. And I don't know if you guys have seen the tower with sort of these arms. They call them the chopsticks. And they want to catch the booster.
You can see them on here.
Yeah, so those arms, they want to precise land the booster and catch them with the chopsticks, which, it's not a guarantee, but they're going to try. And they had, if you guys watched the last launch live, there were a lot of ups and downs, and, the little flap that could, which, by the way, I have a size large shirt that I'd like to throw in the audience here from Flight 4. But the idea is that they want to launch as much as they can, rapidly iterate, learn from every single test flight, and that's what sets them apart from NASA, from even other space companies. They move fast and for good reason.
And I think that's the biggest difference between a NASA versus a SpaceX, right? Is that NASA has to make sure everything is going to go right. There's no question about failure. And actually, not to spoil Jared's session, but it's that's the difference versus SpaceX is let's just launch this. Let's see how far it goes. If it even freaking blows up in the sky, what do we learn? Because they're collecting all of that data and that information to then reiterate. And they're doing it it's so fast.
Well, and that's, I think a lot of people on the outside, you see usually the headlines after a launch are quite negative, particularly after the first few. It's
it was like Tesla media all over again. I was getting 2018 PTSD.
Yeah, it's Starship explodes and Elon Musk, fails again or whatever. And it's no, they've learned so much. And that's why they've been able to improve every single flight.
I mean, the fact that this is the 5th Starship launch ever, the largest, most powerful rocket ever to go, they're going to literally try to catch it. I mean, again, I don't know what will change. It's very dynamic. But that's by the 5th launch, I would expect that baby by the 30th, 40th launch, just trying to send it up. But yeah, it's just absolutely wild.
Well, they know how to do it, So we'll see if they're able to do it, but I think they're gonna try their hardest to make it happen. And if you guys haven't been to Starbase, and the other thing I will say too, the access is getting more restricted. They're putting up fences, they're putting up walls, and so if you haven't been, I'd make the trip. This is a size large. Can I throw it? Should I throw it? All right, because we're out of time. Okay, I'm gonna throw it. Actually, can you throw it for me?
All right, sounds good.
I know I'm gonna embarrass myself.
All right, I'm just gonna close my eyes. Obviously, you can't see my eyes closed, but so I don't know who got it, but yeah, I just didn't want it to be biased. So first off, Elliot, as we're winding this down, I just want to thank you as a personal friend. You've been a huge support for me and my wife. Even I know my wife even reached out to you after the interview that you did with Elon and stuff. So congrats on that. But just thank you for opening up doors in the space world. I just appreciate you. I appreciate people like Jade over there too that just are helping us kick this thing off. Jared coming. I mean, this is what it's all about, right? This is the very beginning of hopefully us stepping into the space, world, really.
Yeah. I mean, there are multiple SpaceX channels, and I try to interview very interesting people. I try to interview the experts. There's a lot of technical channels, people that have engineering backgrounds. I do not. But I'm trying to, there's another space influencer, Everyday Astronaut, and he wants to bring space down to earth for everyday people. And so I'm trying to get the mainstream and people that just don't know what's going on, to tune in to a Starship launch, because it's not just affecting people down in Texas. It's not just affecting Americans. This is going to change the world for everyone.
I want you to break the news that Elon's coming virtually, and then I'll say some stuff after. So you just do it right now. I did on X already. So.
All right, everyone. This just in, breaking news. Everyone, please brace yourselves.
12 o'clock.
We have a very important update. John has just shared with me, my co-host here, that we have a very special guest at noon. Very special guest. Someone who's going to be here virtually. His initials are ERM. Elon Musk will be speaking here at the X Takeover virtually at noon. So don't leave. Stay here. He has agreed to it. That is major.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's just, I want to just say, again, thank you for breaking. I feel like, you should break it. So, obviously, we, I'm just sorry. I'm just taking a moment here right now. It's just,
this man has been through so much to organize this, to have curveballs left and right. He has worked so hard behind the scenes, and you guys, there have been some things, and so we appreciate all of your hard work. This is not easy to do. Everyone, let's stand up for John.
Hey guys. Yeah. Thank you guys. I mean, just thank you guys from the bottom of my heart. Like this is, I mean, you're seeing this stuff unfold as is. So, but it made most sense for you to break it because I was like, news anchor, SpaceX. So you broke it, and
it is breaking news.
Exactly. I literally just got the text like as we were walking up. So just confirmation about it. So we could not. But yeah. So thank you.
Yes.
Let's keep the thing rolling. But yeah, thank you guys again.